Good afternoon, and welcome to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I am your host, Kevin King. He is I, and I am him, the 800 Credit Score Man himself. And again, thank you for giving me 30 minutes of your time every Saturday, 1:30 Central Standard Time, right here on Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker. Spreaker.com, as well as it's on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's on Google Play. Sometimes you can catch it on SoundCloud, and it's also on YouTube. So anywhere you want to get it, you can get the 800 Credit Score Man Show, and you can get it at your leisure on demand. So thank you very much for coming in and listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I also want to ask a favor of you guys. Go to Spreaker.com and follow me. Click the follow button on Spreaker.com. You follow me there. Every time a show posts, if I put anything up at all, it is going to alert you, and you'll be able to see that something happened with the 800 Credit Score Man Show. So you never know. One day I might, in between the middle of the week or something, I might throw something up, and you don't want to miss it. So go and follow me at Spreaker.com. And, of course, I welcome you to follow me at any of the other platforms as well. On Twitter, I'm at CreditScore_man. You can catch me on Twitter there. If you follow me on Twitter, I absolutely follow you back. I also always follow you back on Spreaker.com. And then you can catch my Facebook page at 800 Credit Score Man on Facebook. Also at 800 Credit Score Man on Instagram as well. So catch me in one of those multiple places. So thank you guys for coming in and listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. What are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to recap a little bit, make some clarifications from the show from last week. Last week I told you guys all about the new arrangement that has been made that will go into effect July 1st of 2017. So, and I also said that it was some of the best information or changes, positive changes for you and me, the consumers, the plus 200 million people in America that utilize this credit scoring system that we have. So it was very positive. And I also mentioned that over the last couple of years, we've had some very good things for us, the consumers. Probably the most positive information for us to help us out and help our credit scores out, probably within the last 12, 15, maybe even 20 years to come out in such a short period of time. So I'm going to recap some of the information from last week, as well as other positive information that came out, more than a year ago, that's already in effect and is positively affecting your credit score. So there's no time like the present for you to go ahead and start working on your credit to get those credit scores up. Increasing your credit scores will lower your interest rates, and you're going to save yourself some money. And we all need to save a little money for a rainy day. So it is a good thing that you're listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. And wherever you get this show, please share it. Wherever platform you listen on, if you're listening on iTunes, I know there's a button on iTunes where you can go ahead and just click that button and you can share it with your friends. Same thing if you're listening to it on Spreaker.com. You can click on it and you can listen. You can share this with your friends. So don't keep the 800 Credit Score Man Show the best kept secret out there. I want you guys to share it with your friends, your family, and even your frenemies. All right, so let's recap a little bit from the second half of the show from last week. Last week I mentioned to you guys that coming July the 1st, there's going to be changes that go into effect about some things that report to your credit report. Now, it's things that typically, if they were on your credit report, it was a negative. So if you had this item on your credit report, it not only drug down your credit score, it also signaled to whoever was lending you money, whether it was a mortgage company or it was a bank, or you were trying to get an automobile or a credit card company, it signaled to them that you have had some credit issues. And so not just some simple little issues, some other things that have gone a long way, all the way to the court system. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about judgments. Now, a judgment basically is, have you ever been sued? So if you've been sued before and you actually lost and it was a monetary amount and you had to pay that amount, then that was a judgment. That judgment went onto your credit report if you didn't pay it. And so then, of course, a negative item that was placed on your credit report, it would pull down your credit score. Now, how many points? Somebody's out there thinking, how many points does a judgment really affect me? I'm not sure exactly, and it's probably different for everyone, even with inquiries. You might get dinged 2 points, sometimes you get dinged 4 points, sometimes you get dinged 6 points. So I'm not sure exactly how much a judgment dings your credit score, but it does ding your credit score and make it come down. So if you've been sued and you lost and you had to pay somebody, that was on your credit report. So any of you guys out there that have ever been evicted, if you've ever been evicted at all from your apartment complex, or your landlord had to sue you and you had to go to court for it and you lost, a judgment was entered against you in X amount. So if you didn't pay that judgment, and sometimes even if you paid that judgment basically right away after you went to court and you were found, liable for whatever this particular amount is, and you paid that anyway, it would still show up on your credit report. Again, negative for you, pulling down your credit score. So now what's happening on July the 1st is that those judgments will no longer show up on your credit report. TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian have all said we're not going to collect this data anymore, and we're not going to place it on individuals' credit report. They also said they're not going to report this information. Now, the way I took, they're not going to report this information. If you had a judgment in the past, meaning before July the 1st, they are not going to continue to report that on your credit report. And this is the case. So they're not going to continue to do it. So if you already have a judgment, you already lost in court to your landlord or whatever it is, then it's on your credit report now. That's going to come off of your credit report, and they say, I'm putting that in air quotes, they say July the 1st. Now, it may not happen right away. It may not be automatic, but it should be coming off your credit report. And I'm sure if it stays on your credit report come August or September or what have you, then you can do a dispute and it'll finally come off your credit report. It'll probably just simply be that there's so many of them that TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian wasn't able to catch everybody's, and you kind of got caught in that. So come July the 1st, again, that's going to come off your credit report if you have that already on there. And that's why you're going to get a bump in your credit score, because it is dragging down your score. Now, what kind of bump are you going to get? What's a significant bump when it comes to your credit score? And it depends. So all the experts say that you could get a 20-point bump in your credit score. So you could be sitting at a 680 and you have a judgment that comes off, and it's going to increase your credit score to 700, putting you in in a very good light when it comes to your credit. You're going to be in a good range when you hit 700. But it also says you could get an increase as much as 40 points. An increase of 40 points is extremely significant. I don't care where you start from. If you start at a 560 or if you are at a 700, a 40-point bump in your credit score is extremely significant. So you can get anywhere from a 20 to 40 point bump in your credit score. Now, I would imagine if you have more than one judgment on your credit report, so let's say you have one from one landlord place and then a second from an apartment complex or what have you, and both of those come off your credit report, you're going to get a significant bump. You'll probably be the people that they talk about when they say you can get potentially a 40-point bump in your credit score, because you're going to have more negative things come off of your credit report. So that's an absolute good thing for anyone with a judgment. So what else is going to happen come July 1st? So we've dealt with the judgments. I hope that's very clear. Everybody's going to know what's happening. No longer going to be on your credit report, and you'll be able to get an increase in your credit score. But also, if you have a lien that's listed on your credit report. Now, it is tax time, right? It's tax time. And you and I both know if you do not pay Uncle Sam, then you could get a tax lien. So if you didn't file taxes, or you filed taxes that said that you owed, but you never actually paid them, then that was placed onto your credit report. So now, come July 1st, those liens, it could be state or it could be federal, but those liens are no longer going to be listed on your credit report. And previously, if you had a state lien, and let's say you even paid it, say you didn't realize you had this state lien, it was $450 or whatever, you didn't pay it, and then you finally pay it, it still stayed on your credit report for 7 years. And there was nothing you can do about it in most states. Most states would not remove it by requesting it. You could challenge it or dispute it as much as you wanted, and it wouldn't matter. It was not coming off of your credit report. But now, come July the 1st, those liens are no longer going to be recorded or placed onto your credit report. So you have nothing to worry about with that. Again, you can get a bump if you have a lien on your credit report right now. It's going to come off. Now, previously, if you had a federal tax lien, at least the Fed had a form that you can fill out, and you can request for them to remove that off of your credit report. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. They worked really slow. You can make a request, and it could be next tax time by the time they got to it and fulfilled your request, but at least you had the option when it was a federal tax, when it was the federal tax or IRS for those liens. But now they will no longer take those things into consideration, nor will they place them on to your credit report. Now, banks are saying that they won't get a full picture about your credit worthiness if they can't have the information regarding your liens and judgments, because you're going to have, for them, quote unquote, a false positive. Your credit score is going to be artificially higher than it actually should be. That's what they're saying right now. The banks are saying right now, but we'll see how that all falls out in the mix. So that's a couple of things that are very new that's helping you out as well starting July the 1st. So everybody ought to see a bump. And if you're working on your credit right now, you're already working on it, or you're going to start working on it, just imagine if you can get those things off and you can work on the other criteria that help make up your credit score, you could potentially see what? Like a 40, 60, 80 point bump in your credit score over the next maybe 5 or 6 months. That is absolutely significant and wonderful. So start working on your credit. You already are doing that by listening to the 800 Credit Score Man show, and I appreciate it. So let me throw a shout out in right quick. I want to shout out Hector King. Hector King is celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday to you, Hector King. So let me jump into now. Also, let's talk about the other things that that are positive for us that came out some time ago, and now they're all in effect, and it should be helpful to you. So one of the first things I want to talk to you about is that if you don't have an agreement with someone and it's been going on your credit report, like you didn't sign something, like when you go and sign loan papers, or you get that credit card, you sign up for it. When you sign up with your cable company, those are agreements that you actually made. You sought out and you went into agreement with someone. So those are the kinds of things that always go on your credit report, right? So don't get too happy. That's not coming off. So if you got an issue with Sprint or T-Mobile or Comcast or Wild Cable or whoever it is, you're still going to have that issue with them if you didn't pay them, and they put that on your credit report. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you had your city fine you for whatever reason. You got too much trash in your front yard, you got a car sitting on bricks or whatever it is, and they fine you, then those things, if you didn't pay them, were starting to go on people's credit report, or they have for quite some time if they ever caught up with, the actual owner of the home. They would place those things on your credit report, and of course, it would pull down your credit score. Now, your fine could have been $20, or it could have been $200, or you could have had multiple fines. You had several things wrong, and they came by a couple of times, and they kept fining you or adding to them and adding penalties, and maybe it was, $2,000, whatever it is. Those kinds of things are no longer going to be on your credit report. So, and that's already in effect. So they started this quite some time ago, and it was going to roll out over like 9 months. That